Hi, so it's 1 o'clock now, so I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Miriam Niebla. I am a 15-year veteran teacher with Broward County Schools in Florida. I have been facilitating Project GUTS since 2013. I started out just like you, taking one of these workshops, and fell in love with the curriculum as I saw what my students were able to accomplish with it. And I became a facilitator after that. This is going to be my first navigating Zoom. I'm excited to meet you, and I'm excited for what we're going to be covering today. So I'm going to turn this over and introduce Hal. Hal, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure, Mimi. Hi, I'm Hal Scheintaub, and I'm talking to you from outside of Portland, Maine. I've been associated with GUTS for 13 years. I looked on my profile. Before that, I was a scientist, and then around 2000, I became a public school teacher, and right around that time, I went to workshops, a live workshop, but similar to this, and was at MIT, and was intrigued by StarLogo and the possibility of bringing programming into my classes. At that time, StarLogo was a text language, and we translated it into blocks and hopefully make it so that more people could use it. I think hopefully you'll find this workshop. We'll find it useful so that you'll feel more empowered and better able to bring StarLogo to your classroom. I brought it into physics classrooms and biology classrooms. And, it's fantastic. It really well, anyway, that's enough talking, and we'll probably get started. Mimi?
All right, so just a few things, since some of us are used to Zoom, but some of us are not. If you would, when you're not speaking, if you can actually mute your microphones, only because what happens is that the moment it picks up a sound, it will automatically flash over to that individual. So if we can have our microphones on mute, unless you're going to speak, that way it'll just make the workshop go a lot smoother. I am going to ask if you guys can introduce yourselves and where do you teach, so that I can get to know you as well, because this is my first time meeting you. Anyone want to chime in?
Hi, my name's Jerry Lynn Salazar, and I'm a teacher in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I teach a program called SAGE, Services for Advanced and Gifted Students. And this is my first year with Project GUTS.
Nice to meet you, Jerry.
Hello. Did it come up? Hello, I'm Angela Bentley, first year Project GUTS. I'm in Henderson Middle in Richmond.
Nice to meet you. You said your first name was Angela?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Constance Alston from Bouchow Middle School here in Richmond. I'm a 27-year science teacher. Well, this year I'm doing 6th grade honors.
Awesome.
Hello. I'm Vicki Blue from Richmond Public Schools, and I'm the science career coach, and I'm excited about being a part of this new endeavor.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Crystal Corey, and I work at Bouchow Middle School, and this is my first year with Project GUTS.
Welcome. Are we missing anyone?
Hello, my name is Samantha Coronels, and I teach 5th grade, and this is my first year with Project GUTS, and I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Samantha.
Hi, this is Susan Gibbs. I'm a facilitator in Santa Fe. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, my name is Elena Meek. I'm at Albert Hill, 7th grade science, and this is my first year with Guts.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Wilson. I also teach at Albert Hill here in Richmond, Virginia. And this is also our first year with Guts. Morning, everybody, or afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, I am Tracy Foster. It's my first year with Project Guts. I'm at Benford Middle School in Richmond, Virginia.
Hi, my name is Kristen Weidel. I'm one of the field investigators with Guts, and I had the pleasure of seeing Alana and Phyllis this week in action, and they were fantastic.
Hi, I'm McLean Grow. Is this working?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm McLean Grow. I teach at Albert Hill Middle School with Elena and Phyllis, and I'm an 8th grade earth and physical science teacher in first year with Guts.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Anyone else on the line? I just wanted to make sure that I kind of did a roll call that was recorded as well for Miss Irene Lee, since I know that she's accountable. Okay, well, if there is no one else on the line, then I will start. This webinar is going to focus on the differences between troubleshooting and debugging, and being able to kind of recognize when it's a troubleshooting issue or when it's a debugging issue. And more importantly, we hope that after this, number one, it's going to help you implement it within your classes. But we're also hoping that you walk away with the resources that you need and support. You can hear me?
Hey, goof dog.
Hello?
Yeah.
Am I being heard? I think someone has their mic on. Okay, so I'm hoping that you come out of here with the resources and the support that you need in order for implementation, especially the very first time that you're implementing this in the classroom. It's hard to know whether or not is the computer having an issue or whether or not the code is having an issue. So that's pretty much the difference between troubleshooting and debugging. Troubleshooting refers to a problem that the computer is having or a network issue, whereas debugging is specifically referring to a problem within the code that is causing a problem. So today what we're going to do is we're going to give you an opportunity to practice as well as diagnose, if you will. What is the problem, where, and how do we fix it? You're going to need, if you, the Teachers with Guts page. If you've never been here before or if you don't remember your login, you can use a temporary login that is going to be the username teacher as well as the password teacher. But we're asking that if you're using that login rather than your personal login, to make sure that when you enter your answers in the comment box, you actually write who is making the comment, because otherwise we won't know. So if you can open up a separate tab, and I will share my screen with you. Give me a moment. And go back to Zoom so I can share.
You said in the Teacher with Guts, what are we opening up?
So you're going to open up your teacherswithguts.org page, And I'm going to open up mine so that you can see it. So you're going with Teachers with Guts, and you're going to go ahead and log in. And if you don't remember your login, please feel free in the username to put teacher, and then the password also teacher, and that can act as your temporary login for the purposes of this workshop. And that way everyone can log into the Project Guts site. And then I'll show you where we're going from there. So this is the regular welcome screen. Everybody good? Thumbs up so I can visually, there we go. Just want to make sure everybody's able to access. Okay. So we wanted to give you a few practical challenges, things that we really have come across, and then be able to diagnose whether it's a troubleshooting problem or whether it's a debugging problem. So what we did is that we developed a series of small little challenges that we're going to explore during this hour to, number one, give you practice, and number two, so that we can help you and guide you as we need to. So under the practice, these are the two turtles up and down. If you can click on practice. And on the right-hand side, if we scroll down, went too far, you'll see debugging or troubleshooting number one. That's this link right here in the middle. So debugging or troubleshooting one, if you click on it, it will take you here. And this is going to be the first challenge, if you will, that we're going to present you with. Okay, so challenge number one, you open a project and you notice that it didn't save your changes from last time. First of all, is it a debugging issue or is it a troubleshooting issue? And what possibly could be happening at this point? So what we're asking you to do is in the comments, if you can go ahead and write your comments, I of course will give you the actual answer. But if in the comments, if you can write your thoughts on whether or not you think it's a debugging or a troubleshooting issue. Make sure, again, if you are logged in with the teacher temporary login, if you can please make sure that you write your name in the comments. That way we can actually keep track of what the comments are. So go ahead and enter your response. Here.
Okay, I'm lost. How do we get?
Okay.
How do we look at both screens?
Both screens? Okay, so
well,
we have.
I see yours and I see the strip of people on the right-hand side.
Right.
I can't use my own internet. Like, how do I'm just in looking at yours.
Okay, so you're probably in Zoom by itself. So you're going to want to open up a separate tab on your browser.
That's what I can't find how to minimize or X out.
So on Zoom, it's a little, do you have the little panel? Like, did you open up the app or did you open it up within a browser?
Browser.
Okay, so you're going to want to, in the top right-hand corner sometimes, it'll have you exit the full screen. Do you have that?
The only thing I have is your screen for Guts. Mm-hmm. And then on the right-hand side, there's
a little strip
of pictures of everybody.
Okay. When you go to the bottom of the screen, do you get a menu?
It says invite participants, share, chat, leave, stop video, and mute.
Yeah, that's not helpful. All right.
Mimi, can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Try pushing escape to exit the full screen on Zoom.
Yeah, that didn't work.
No, you don't get you can't make the Zoom screen any smaller now?
When I hit escape, nothing happens.
Okay.
Let me see.
Just go ahead. I'll watch yours.
Okay.
It's
Well,
okay.
does anyone else have a suggestion? I'm working on a Mac, so I don't know.
I found it.
Okay.
Can you share?
At the top, it said viewing preferences or viewing options or something. And it was a viewing option, view options. In the top middle, it's like it drops down if you roll your mouse up there. And then when you hit view options, it has Zoom and something. I must have hit it by mistake.
Was that helpful, Alana? Is it Elena or Alana? Hello? Okay. Okay, so with the debugging or troubleshooting, okay, we have one submitted. Let me see if I refresh. Okay, it seems to be pretty unanimous that it is in fact a troubleshooting issue, and you're absolutely correct. When it comes to it not saving your changes, it happens a lot that you may have the program open in more than one browser. You'll notice that sometimes you'll get an error in one of the browsers if you have the exact same project open in a different browser, and it won't save it from one or the other. So that's usually what happens. It also has happened where you'll have it where the program has lost its internet connection, and therefore it hasn't saved it from the very last time that you have kind of refreshed it or remixed it. So we do actually recommend that it is that you try to save, or well, it's going to save automatically every time you make a change. Like 1 second after, it's going to do an automatic save. But you do want to get in the habit on critical stages when you're developing your projects to remix. And that's actually very helpful, and it's very helpful to encourage your students to do the same thing, particularly if they fumble their code way later on. They can go back to the last version that did work. And that's actually helpful for a lot of the students. Anyone have anything else to add before we move on to troubleshooting number 2?
I'll just add one thing about the remix. So it is really, really useful because what you'll have then is you'll have the old version and then the new version, the new remix. So then students, and it's not a bad idea, like if you have a multi-day project, to have the students open up the project from the day before, remix, and then go ahead and work, because that way they don't mess up their whole project. They can always go back to where they were at the beginning of the period. So that's a little bit different than a save, because now you have the old version and then you have the new version. And maybe sometimes you want to go back to the old version, and you'll be able to.
Thank you, Hal. So we're going to go ahead, and you guys were right on target when you said it was a troubleshooting issue. So let's try going now to debugging or troubleshooting number 2. It's going to be located on the right-hand side, still under your practice screen. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click this for you.
Okay, when I was lost, so I don't know how to get to where you all are.
Okay, so if you click on practice, which are the 2 little turtles, one on top of the other, and then you're going to scroll down to the right-hand side, and it's going to say debugging or troubleshooting, and we're on number 2. Okay. So for this one, you get a message that the project can't be saved. And this is kind of a screenshot of kind of what it would look like when you see it. So here's the question. Is it a debugging issue or a troubleshooting issue? And I may have alluded to this before. Hint, hint. Once again, if you can put your answer and your rationale in the comment box below. And once again, just a reminder for those that are using the teacher login, if they can make sure that they add their name to it. And I'll give you a minute to write responses as I refresh. And we have some comments already. So an error has occurred while trying to save. And you'll begin to see some of these boxes as you facilitate this within your classroom. All right, so we have a mix. Some people that think it's troubleshooting and some people that think it is debugging. This particular error that you're seeing, where the error saving a file, this is actually a troubleshooting issue. This usually happens when your internet goes down and the project that you're trying to save may be open in another computer tab or window. This is actually the error that I was alluding to in the first one, where sometimes you're going to see this error where you'll have it multiple, you'll have the project open in multiple places, but you didn't realize that the internet may have gone down or just, temporarily lost connectivity. So when they both went to autosave, one of the projects won't be able to save and will get this message. That's usually what happens. Easy fix, okay, is you're basically going to either close the second browser, refresh the browser, usually works, and then remixing so that you can make a copy of it is usually another common way to kind of get it back. Okay. Anything to add, Hal, Sue? All right. Then we're moving right along. I think you guys are doing fantastic. We're going to be moving to debugging or troubleshooting number 3 on the right-hand side. So these are the most common, especially of the troubleshooting errors. You won't have as many of them. You're going to have a lot more debugging. And before the close of this session or webinar, I'm going to make sure that I give you a resource that is going to help you with the most common debugging and troubleshooting issues, as well as fixes for it within your classroom, so that you have that resource available to you prior to implementation. This one is actually a screenshot that I took because this happens a lot in my classroom. So debugging or troubleshooting number 3. Help, my run code is red. What is going on? So once again, if you could please place your comments below.
Something needs to happen.
I'm unable to comment on mine. Some reason there's no button for me to comment, and I've been trying to troubleshoot through this. So.
Oh, it doesn't show the box?
No, I don't have a box on mine. in any of the screens. I've clicked on all the troubleshoots and there's no comment box.
Out of curiosity, what browser are you using?
I'm using Chrome.
The same with me. I cannot write in the comment box. This is Vicky Drew.
Yeah, there's
I'm in
no
Chrome
box.
also.
Because it said be the first to comment and there was nothing there and I've been clicking. So that's why you haven't seen anything from me.
Are you sure you're logged in?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it said welcome to Elena, but I'll look again just to make sure.
I'm also logged in.
All right, this is probably one of the most common errors that happen individually within my classroom. In years past, we used to get a box that used to say that you have an empty or that you have a 0. This happens most often when it's absolutely a debugging issue and they're absolutely where something in the code is incorrect. 9 times out of 10, there's either an extra block out there somewhere. There is a block that has a section not filled in, for example, whether it be a number or a color, but they have left an empty section. So whenever there's something really wrong that the computer cannot read, you're going to get this red run code. That basically means please, please, please go back, look, there's something in your code that is awry, and I don't quite understand what to do with it. And therefore, it's not allowing me to run the code, okay? But this most often happens, especially if they leave a number or a block blank, where they leave that little section blank and the computer doesn't quite know what to do with it. That is probably one of the most common.
What I found in my class, this is Julia, is that it's one of the pull downs. They haven't selected from the pull down.
Sometimes they forget to put even the block with the pull down in there and it's blank. That one's always fun.
Definitely.
Okay, and we're moving right along here. This will be debugging or troubleshooting number 4. Debugging or troubleshooting number 4. And I'm going to go ahead and click. And we thank you, our teachers, because this one actually was submitted by someone that was having an issue. And we love getting these issues because then we get to troubleshoot them and be able to guide other teachers that may actually have similar problems. So a student says their computer crashed and they get this screen, page unresponsive, okay, where it allows you to either wait or exit the page. This is troubleshooting, debugging, and what could possibly be happening here? And this is a tricky one. Troubleshooting. I'm enjoying watching your responses because it's like, that would have been me. But this one's actually a bit tricky. All right, so I'm actually going to tell you what happened with this particular, how we actually ended up getting this particular error. What happened was that they had made their code to create a certain amount of turtles, but that every time they touched those turtles, it would produce multiple turtles. So what happened was, because they were being created in that same section, they didn't get it, and they hadn't moved those turtles away from each other. The moment that they ran the code and that it started, it actually created so many turtles that it basically crashes the program. You can't even see the turtles being made because it's Star Logo Nova wanting to run your program. So what happened in this particular case is not really a troubleshooting issue, although it does appear to be. Like, if you would have asked me, I would have totally, we had to actually explore this one. I would have totally said the same thing. Oh, well, clearly the browser is crashing. No, the browser actually wasn't crashing, but rather the actual code caused the browser to crash, in the sense that it was trying to create so many agents on a page. So it was like a color, it didn't have time to actually go and look for that color, but rather it was the color making more and more and more and more and more simultaneously, one on top of each other. So what happens is that the program began to move so slowly with the amount of agents that it was trying to produce that it caused this particular error. So it's basically just Star Logo Nova really wanting to make sure that it runs the code that you write. It's the only problem here. But it's good to know kind of what was happening here, so that the fix was, in this particular case, it really did take us a little while to kind of find what was going on, but it was that when they were creating the turtle, they were simultaneously multiplying that turtle over and over and over and over again to create a bunch of different agents. So it's kind of one of those very, very unique problems, but we definitely wanted to expose you to it in case you actually ever encounter it within your classroom as well. So this was them trying to create the colliding turtles, but they were colliding instantaneously and producing way too many agents for the computer program to kind of handle. So it just moves so slowly that it kind of gave you this error to either wait for it or response. And again, the fix for it is just fixing the code prior to running the program, and that will automatically fix it. Anything to add, Hal, Sue?
Yeah, I think we'll see an example of this code a little bit later on. So it's sort of hard to picture without seeing the code, but we'll show you the code that produces this error message a little bit later on.
Yeah. And I can actually copy and paste a piece of that code within the screen as well. So I can add it to the practice if you guys want to take a look at it, just to see if you guys ever encounter that yourselves. All right. Now these, I'm gonna flat out tell you, are debugging challenges. And these are fun not only to help you troubleshoot and kind of talk through your code and actually exercise some of the strategies of debugging your code, but they're also useful sometimes for your students. We love to use debugging challenges, or I use for extension activities, particularly when a student, you have your overachiever that gets everything done really quickly. These are sometimes fun for them to actually explore as well. So we're going to be going through our debugging challenge number 1. And I'm going to click on it. I'm going to show you the challenge, but then I'm going to switch off of the screen for a moment just while I go ahead, and I'm going to copy and paste part of that code that I was talking about into the practice section. So for debugging challenge number 1, I gave you a snippet of code. And my question is, okay, my code looks okay, but how come my turtles aren't red? So if you could please write your comments. What's going on with my code? What's wrong with it?
Miriam, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
I don't know how to type in my answer. I just logged in late.
Okay.
I do know the answer to the problem.
Are you on the Teachers with Guts side?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Okay.
Well, I'm on this, but I have it open.
Okay. Did you log into the Teachers with Guts site in the top right-hand corner?
I think so.
Does it say log out?
Yeah.
Okay, so you should be logged in. I'm wondering why because you're not the only one. There's a few that have had problems being able to type.
I'm not able to see both screens at once though. So like I just looked at my Teachers with Guts. I mean, I can try logging out and logging back in again, I guess.
I'm just wondering why it's not allowing for comments, or it is on some and not on others. Because that's actually something that I want to take back to Irene, just to make sure that we address this before the next webinar.
Okay.
Mine was, this is Elena. Mine was the login. I hadn't hit the button on the right because I had to restart and open my computer a couple of times.
Okay.
So in this screen though, should I hit share or what do I, chat or?
Oh, for Zoom, okay. You're saying for Zoom. Okay, you don't have to. You don't have to put it in the Zoom, although you could have shared it. It's under the Teacher with Guts, and then I've been kind of sharing out from my screen.
I joined late. My kid had a soccer game. I just showed up.
It's okay.
Okay. So where do I go in my Guts website?
Okay, so the Teacher with Guts, you're gonna hit the practice. It's
Okay.
gonna say practice on the top, practice on the, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see we did troubleshooting 1, 2, and 3. Right now we're doing debugging challenge 1.
Okay, I got it.
Perfect. Yay.
So just add a new comment. Okay.
Yep. Okay. So back to this one. And see if I refresh. Open. Turtle tab. I see a few people got it. So if we look at this code, it says when setup is pushed, create 26 turtles, set my size to 4, and set my color to red. But this little red section you can't write into. You have to use a trait block. So that is why that is not functioning. This happens often where they're like, well, if you can write the number 4, why can't you write the color red? And it just does not work. You actually have to get the little drop-down block that goes in there. So that is a fantastic debugging challenge. Want to try another one? Let's try debugging challenge number 2. Let's click on it. Debugging challenge number 2. Once again, we have a snippet of code and there are 7 errors in this code. 7 errors just within this small little section. So see if you can find all 7 errors. It's important to know what the code is trying to do. So in this case, the modeler is trying to create 300 blue turtles shaped like spheres and 100 red turtles also shaped like spheres. And when they run the simulation button is toggled, the turtles are supposed to move randomly around spacelands with a 15-degree wiggle. So again, 7 errors in this code. Let's see if you can find them all.
I can't see the code anymore.
Okay, give me one. Let me see if I can fix this.
I just see the word Samantha.
Oh, because I'm not sharing my screen. I was trying to put in the actual answers into. Give me 1 second. I promise I'll share my screen again. Share. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wow, some of you are awesome. I see one. Has anybody found all 7? So why don't we do some of this out loud? Only because the silence is deafening for me. All right, so I see a few errors. So the first one that I see is when setup is pushed. That's not usually in the turtle tab. Where do we usually find when setup is pushed?
In the world.
In the world. Yep. And then the second one that immediately jumps out to me is I have a create do block inside of a create do block. So I would probably, my instinct is to sit here and I want to click and drag this all the way to the bottom over here because we have one do block inside of another block. So anybody see another error?
Yeah, it seems like the random block needs to have a range, like 1 to 15 degrees, but maybe I'm wrong. The left by needs to be have a random in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you're absolutely right, because if not, it's moving exactly in the straight line because it's not actually doing a wiggle.
Yeah,
Right.
You're absolutely correct.
The set my color and shape blocks have to have the actual color with the blue and color red. You can't type in those two words.
Yep, we just went through that, as a matter of fact, in the last challenge. So these two need drop downs, absolutely.
And the same thing with the word sphere. You have to have the block.
Correct. There's one more that is really, really common. So if we're creating 300 turtles and then we're creating another 100, every single time we press setup, what's happening to our screen?
Those turtles will be placed on top of one another. There needs to be a scatter block.
There does need to be a scatter block and one more.
Well, they're nested. They're not nested right. Like the create 100 turtles needs to be moved down.
Yeah, it needs to be down here.
I don't know. I think we already talked about that, but
We
Delete
did.
everyone.
Someone said it.
Delete everyone.
Yes, because what happens is that you'll end up adding turtles, adding more turtles to the page. That has happened to me a million times over, where I forget to clear the terrain or I forget to delete everybody.
is it important to put both
starting.
of those blocks? Is it important to put a clear terrain and delete everyone? Like, are both of those blocks important? Or what's the difference between those two, I guess, is my question.
Okay, so clear terrain, especially, for example, if you have like a stamped grid and you have like, you know, I don't know, where they're going to hit black and turn, you know, 180 degrees,
right,
etc.
yeah.
So you want to clear the terrain. When you're saying delete everyone, you're talking about the agents.
Okay.
So it's the same thing. If you're using a clock or if you're using some sort of graph, you want to set your time to 0 every single time. So it's basically just a way of zeroing everything out every time you press setup prior to running this code.
Okay.
So you just want to get in the habit of kind of doing that, you know, depending on what you're doing. You're absolutely right. If you don't have anything on the terrain, do you have to clear the terrain? No. However, if you have anything stamped on the terrain, you want to clear it prior.
Yeah, it would be like if you had the pen down. So if you're using the pen down function, and so turtle was tracing its path or something like that, you'd have to clear the terrain. Otherwise, the path would remain.
Okay, that makes sense.
Good question.
Does anyone ever use the everyone tab? I've never used it. I've used turtle and world, and I've actually created other tabs, but I've never used everyone. What's that about?
So everyone is used when you want to make a code or a function that absolutely everyone is going to follow. And you're absolutely right, where I haven't really used that tab very often.
It's helpful for a wiggle walk is what I've found if you have multiple creatures or whatever in your land. then they can just set up it once in everyone. And
Does the same wiggle walk, right? Because it will pertain to every breed that is on there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's another really good question. Yeah, like it would be if you had if you were playing a game, and then like when when halftime comes, like everybody go to the locker room. So you wouldn't have to say one team go to the locker room, the other team go to the locker room. Just say everybody go to the locker room.
Okay.
Something like that.
That's a great analogy, Hal.
If you look at the end of the chemistry model, there's an experiment where you're changing the way that all of the agents wiggle, all the various chemical reaction things that you have, and it's much simpler to change that procedure if you build it on the everyone tab and then just call it on the different agent tabs who need to execute.
Okay. So it's in mod 4?
Yeah, if you look at the very end of module 4, one of the last activities, you'll see using the everyone tab.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to make sure that we covered all of the, so we did the scatter block. You're absolutely right, left turns, right turns, and we forgot the random block. Creating and using the wrong kind of widget button. So instead of run simulation, or when run simulation is pushed, it really should have been when forever is toggled. We did catch the nesting. We caught the not putting the drop-down boxes or the trait boxes, forgetting to delete everyone, and the script in the wrong page. So we did find all 7. Yay us. We are doing a fantastic job. Pat myself on the back. Okay. All right. It is 1:52. I want to make sure that if we have enough time, I'm going to go to debugging challenge 3, but I want to take this time to really show you where some of the resources that you may be using are. So under your resources tab, or for me personally, I just type in the word debugging. As you can see, I use this often. And resources. So if you write debugging in the first column and you use your resources and you go ahead and go, and I have to access my screen here. Your pretty faces are in the way of my go button. There we go. Okay. It will take you to this page on the Teacher with Guts site. And this is where I really want to draw your attention. You have debugging strategies for teachers and facilitators. This is a phenomenal resource. But there's also a debugging guide that will actually show you not only what are the most common bugs that you will find in Star Logo Nova, but more importantly, how to fix them. And these.
I'm sorry, I got a little lost. Where are you now?
Okay, so in the search bar, I put debugging, and then I
got
put
you.
resources.
Thank you.
Go.
Debugging resources.
And then it's going to be the debugging strategies guide for teachers and facilitators, as well as the debugging guide, are 2 invaluable resources. These are really, really helpful for what are the most common bugs that you may possibly find in Star Logo Nova, as well as fixes and solutions for them. You'll also find that the strategies, being able to talk through your code is something that is not only phenomenal for you to do as a teacher, but to try to get your students to be able to do. And that's actually going to lead in, it's a lead in into our next webinar. Because our next webinar is going to actually focus on facilitating students.
Thank you, boo.
So this facilitating student debugging and problem solving, and teaching the students how to debug and problem solve for themselves.
Thank you.
will be extremely helpful. So was everyone able to access those resources?
Oh, you went there. Oh, just the
Yeah.
back one because it was.
Yes.
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 Mhm. You got it. Thank you, boo.
No problem.
Smart as always. Oh, let me see.
Was everyone able to access those resources?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
So they'll actually get a little bit more into the actual strategies that you'll be teaching your students so that they can actually learn how to kind of debug for themselves, things like talking through their code, how to actually, this is where the pair programming really, really, really shines, and being able to problem solve within themselves. You know, things like asking 3 people prior to you asking the teacher. You know, so this is really going to be the focus of the very next webinar. But this is, I mean, I loved having this little cookbook, if you will, of problems as well as solutions, so that when it did come across, I was able to kind of have a resources. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that there are resources available to you, and more importantly, there's support. For me, like I said, my name is Miriam Niebla, but I also go by Mimi. If you actually were to look me up, I believe I'm a member somewhere, maybe. I'll be under here somewhere. I'm under N for Niebla, but it does have my email. I'm actually, I teach all 6 periods. I don't have a planning. So I'm actually easier to get by email, but it does ring on my phone. So if you're in the middle of a classroom and, you know, help, I will come to your rescue. As well as Teachers with Guts has a great discussion board, frequently asked questions, as well as help. And they monitor this site constantly. So please do not feel that you are alone in your implementation by any stretch of the imagination. We are all here to help you and to support you as you implement this for the first time. We know how nerve-wracking that can be. Are there any additional questions, concerns that you would like addressed?
Not really. I just would like to say that for my middle school kids, the lessons seem to be a little bit unrealistic in terms of time. It's taking me about an additional, for every hour I'm supposed to spend, I'm spending an additional 30 minutes getting through those lessons. So the pacing seems to be a bit difficult for my students.
I noticed that it depends. Like my students personally have a very hard time with the chemistry module, like a really hard time with the chemistry module. It seems to be a bit above their heads because we don't really go into many ions or that kind of thing. However, some of like the beginning parts of module 1, for example, when it came to the painting turtles, they flew by that to the point where I had to challenge them to create additional pictures with their turtles. And I can actually share with you a resource of what they came up with, which was absolutely phenomenal. So I think it depends. I think you're absolutely right. It depends on your students. It depends on, you know, what they've been exposed to. Sometimes a little bit of the prior knowledge will affect some of the, you know, the science learning a little bit. So I can totally see that depending on you know, your students and who you have in front of you, because they zip by some and they were really, they struggled with the chemistry, at least at first. I know, but they struggled with more the science concepts than they did the actual coding part, if that makes sense. At least with my students, the experimentation part is what they really struggled with. I don't know if you're finding the same.
Well, I do have a big gap in my students. You know, some of them are way ahead and doing changing their flower churls and making them amazing.
Yeah.
And others are just barely figuring it out. So that's challenging. But just in general, the pacing for my classes, I'm not able to get one of the lessons done in one class period. So, I mean, some of my students are, but the bulk of them, it's taking a little bit longer. So.
Okay. No, that's good feedback, because we can always look.
Mimi, I wanted to say something about the discussion page and how to get help.
Yes.
So if you can do this on your screen, if you'll click on discussions.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to scroll down really pretty far. Keep scrolling until you get down to right there, programming and debugging questions. We do monitor this, so this may be a quick, we haven't had a question in quite a while, but this may be a quick way to get an answer if someone emails you and you're not able to respond and they don't really know who else to ask. If you'll post your question here, whoever can will get back to you as quickly as they can.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Sue. So are there any additional questions, concerns? I want to make sure that you come out of here empowered to at least begin some of implementation. I don't know if you're scheduled to implement in the fall. So I want to make sure that you leave out of here with the resources and support that you need to, that you feel confident. And I know that Irene will send out the next newsletter, your next webinar, which will be on the strategies that you can implement with your students. So anything else for the good of the group? If not, I hope you enjoy your Saturday and have a blessed school week. And I am here to support you if you need me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks.
weekend.
You too.
Leave meeting.
How are you right now?